So I was just out here with the herd, and one of the things that I love to really pay attention to is the different dynamics and relationships in the herd in terms of the different roles. And I was looking at Indra here, who is my first horse, and the dynamic that he has with the young horses in the herd. So Indy and Apollo are two youngest. Apollo's 3 and Indy is 5 or 6. We're not exactly sure her age. And they tend to, they hang around with each other, but they also hang around a lot with Indra. And Indra has a very, there's a lick and chew for Mr. Indra. Indra has a very important role in the herd. Cheveo's going to push everybody away, but you can kind of see where he sticks to these guys. A couple sort of roles he plays in the herd. Number one, he's sort of like a second in command type of personality. If anybody's behavior is acting out of integrity with the hierarchy or the dynamic of how horses should behave, he's the one who corrects behavior. So it's really impactful to have a horse like him, because he really is what sort of polices or keeps the harmony in the herd based on behavior. So if anybody is being overly aggressive or doesn't know how to be in a herd, we've had a couple horses in here that just simply don't know how to be in the herd dynamic. He's really been the teacher, and he's got a really masterful way of doing that, of knowing kind of the subtlety and range of how he needs to hold boundaries. But he also, if you watch again these young horses that follow him around, he's sort of like a mentor to the younger horses, and they look to him to sort of know what those healthy boundaries are within the herd, and how to appropriately behave. And I just think it's really interesting to kind of watch, again, the role and dynamic he plays in the herd and the impact of that. I think, Indy here, this little young black horse, who she will be our lead mare someday, he tempers her a lot and kind of teaches her maturity, because sometimes she can be a little bit immature of how she pushes her dominance. But he's a brilliant teacher of, subtlety, but also clarity of what sort of proper behavior is. And I think for a young horse, that's learning boundaries. And if you can see just Apollo, how he's standing behind Indra, it's really important. So it's just an interesting, dynamic that we have here. You see Apollo is just following Indra. It's just looking to Uncle Indra to kind of provide that support, protection, and also how he kind of needs to behave and respond in the herd. So I think with the horses and the dynamic that I've created here, yes, I know you like to be curious, they get a lot of their teaching from the other horses, in terms of how to hold respectful boundaries, how to stay within that sort of space of hierarchy and what the alignment is. And then, in our work, or in my work, when we look at if there's a certain horse, and Indra has layers to kind of his teaching, what's the significance of his role in the herd in terms of a part of ourselves that we need to master, or that's being asked to come forward. And I think Indra has been a brilliant teacher for me, that being able to set those really clear boundaries has a purpose. So his ability to set, there's his lick and chew, to set boundaries with these young horses, and any horse that is kind of acting out of sorts, is what keeps the integrity of the entire herd. So I know, as somebody who has struggled sometimes with boundaries, there goes Indy with, and see how he has his ears pinned and he's pushing her. So again, that's a subtle communication. He's been a brilliant teacher for me of when I used to not want to set boundaries because I was uncomfortable, that not being able to set those containers and standards with people in my space compromises the integrity of my space. And so he really, I think, he takes his job really seriously, but he's been such an incredible teacher. Boundaries equals sacred space. And he's such a brilliant teacher in his subtlety to watch in terms of how he matures and mentors the young horses in the herd, and any new horse that comes in. Callie's also one who, when she came into our herd from this place of fight, because all she knew was survival, and she was super aggressive, Indra was the one who really schooled her and taught her how to be respectful in the herd. She also hangs out with him a lot. So as much as he was quite aggressive with her on setting those boundaries, it completely balanced her out and made her a much more respectful horse in the herd, she also tends to hang around him a lot. So it's a cool sort of, he's got a really cool kind of subtle way about him that's not always obvious, but he's got a powerful role in the herd. So there you go, just a little bit of kind of herd dynamic for you guys, because it's always interesting to watch the different partnerships. He kind of is the one that does the dirty work for the lead horse. He gets involved in the politics and makes sure everybody knows how to behave. So there we go. So let me know any questions or comments about that. Was that an interesting thing for you guys to watch and witness? And then maybe there's a part of who Indra is in the herd that resonates for you, that's offering you sort of a message of wisdom in your role, or what's being asked of you right now in your life. You can see he's actually behind the, you can see sort of the hierarchy too. And see, he's pushing Indy. He's creating that boundary of, this is where you need to be. And he's actually right behind Chief. You often see Indra kind of holding space behind the lead horses subtly, but he just shifted and moved Indy into position as well, that I think would be more respectful towards Chief. So it's very cool. There's a lot to watch, nuances out here, but there's one element to herd dynamic.